Okay, so I'm going to talk you through Please Hold by Ciaran O'Driscoll. This is another poem in the Poems of the Decade book for AS level literature with the edXL spec. This poem has ties to any of the other poems with the theme of history or the future or of time passing and what that might mean on a societal or personal level. It particularly might compare well with The Fox in the National Museum of Wales, as that also has ties to thinking about the future and what that holds, and they both use some humour. The Fox in the National Museum of Wales, however, has a lot of really creative, interesting language, while Please Hold tries to reduce that down to comment on the effect of automated telephone systems and the computerization of modern life. Okay, so the narrative framing device of this poem is a internal monologue and a man recording what the recorded message of a telephone system says when he's on hold to speak to someone in a bureaucratic sense. And the structure builds and builds throughout, as it's very much about his growing anger with the situation. So first of all, the title, Please Hold, can actually be interpreted in a few different ways. The literal sense, first of all, is please hold the telephone line while we're waiting for someone for you to speak to or to put you through. But it can also be interpreted as please hold on to a connection with other human beings, please hold me, please hold on to one another, please hold on to a past way of life or a sense of identity of who we are right now, rather than throwing all that away for the modern world and all that brings with it. Okay, this is the future, my wife says. We are already there, and it's the same as the present. Your future here, she says, and I'm talking to a robot on the phone. The robot is giving me countless options, none of which answer to my needs. So it's a very easily recognisable situation that any reader will be able to relate to. Wonderful, says the robot when I give him my telephone number, and great, says the robot when I give him my account number. So this is where we have the first sense of satire or irony here. The hyperbolic terms, adjectives, wonderful and great, and the absurdity and that device of absurdity runs throughout the whole poem. The absurdity of a recording device being able to, first of all, comment or offer a perspective or opinion on anything, but particularly to feel overly emotional about such things. I have a wonderful telephone number and a great account number. But I can find nothing to meet my needs. So there's that contrast there, that juxtaposition of having wonderful things but not being able to get what he wants. But I can find nothing to meet my needs on the telephone, and into my account, which is really the robot's account, goes money, my money, to pay for nothing. I am paying a robot for doing nothing. This call is free of charge, says the robot. Yes, but I'm paying for it, I shout, out of my wonderful account into my great telephone bill. So it's the human who is starting to feel emotion here with the verb shout. You've got your sense of sound, a raised voice. Again, something that the readers can very easily relate to, as many of them have felt that level of anger rising in these sorts of phone call situations. The other thing to note about this section here, the play of words and the puns on money paying for nothing and the robot doing nothing. It's a comment on the tangle of language that we can get into, and the ironic content and the lack of true sense, or the inability to move a conversation forward that we're falling into with this repetition and a sense of going round in circles and not being able to get anywhere about paying money, doing nothing, and a robot speaking, and the call is free of charge, and so on and so forth. Yes, but I'm paying for it, I shout, out of my wonderful account into my great telephone bill. Wonderful, says the robot. And then you've got this verb says that keeps being repeated. There's quite a lot of repetition in this poem right through. Now, O'Driscoll is interested in the modernist movement and devices of modernism, of which this sort of repetition is one. So it is a purposeful device he's using to repeat a lot of the same vocabulary and phrases and grammatical structures throughout the piece. So then we've got this idea of a robot talking, which we know is something that's not actually possible. Wonderful, says the robot. And my wife says this is the future. So here this repetition of this phrase, this is the future. First of all, it's a little bit of a contradiction because this can only be the present. So it's that sort of idiom or colloquialism of a commentary on something being very new and modern and progressive is often termed as being the future. So that is quite loaded with meaning as well. And the fact that his wife is repeating the exact same phrase gives her a sort of robotic quality as well. So there's an idea coming through already that even the humans being involved in this situation are, in their own fashion, talking a little bit in a robotic way. And then you've got the idea that O'Driscoll, when he finally gets to speak to an actual person at the end of this automated answering service, that they themselves will be working off a script, more or less, and the freedom and diversity of a conversational language won't actually be the reality of what he gets when he finally talks to a person at the end of going through this maze of options on the telephone system. And my wife says, this is the future. I'm sorry, I don't understand, says the robot. And there you've got this understand and even the personal pronoun I. So you've got a strange situation where the robot is being personified, or the telephone system is being personified. I don't understand, says the robot. Please say yes or no. So here with the binary opposites, yes or no, we've got language being reduced down to its most simplistic form, and all of the nuances, shades of meaning, differences in between the different specific sorts of language is lost, and it's down to its most simplistic meanings. Or you can say repeat or menu. Or you can say agent if you'd like to talk to someone real who is just as robotic. So there you've got someone real, and then going back to this idea of the real person that he will end up speaking to will not be able to talk to him on a real human level, because you've got this simile here, just as robotic. I scream agent. So you've got the shouting turn to scream now, and intensifying of those verbs. And again, you've got this sense of absurdity and ridiculousness building as well. And I'm cut off. And that idiom there, cut off, a little bit of a sense of violence with the cut. And my wife says, this is the future. We are already there, and it's the same as the present. Again, you've got similes coming in as well, same as the present. So he's even commenting here a little bit that they are just in the present. Your future here, she says, and I'm talking to a robot on the phone, and he is giving me no options. So you've got gender now coming into it. He is giving me no options. And then this idea that choice and freedom to decide something is taken away.